Thank you very much, Deepshikha, and again, such a pleasure to be on this panel. You're making me feel young because as my gray hair may show, it's been well over 2 decades that I've been doing this. But maybe first a quick introduction. Alex will do for the Russian speakers who are paying attention out there. The full name is Alexander Sergeyevich Krasavin, but that's perhaps a little bit of a mouthful.
Alex.
Yes, let's stick with Alex. I've now based in Singapore. I've called it home for the last 10 years, which has been amazing for those who are calling in from here. I work at Aon, and at Aon, we're in the business of better decisions. Specifically, when it comes to the topic at hand, we're in the business of helping clients make better workforce decisions. So with that perspective, and I'm glad for your question, Deepshikha, it's really about, from our point of view, about data, about making sure that you look at not just what feels right, but you back that up with statistics, with information, with a plethora of data that's becoming more and more available, because frankly, that is the common language. That is the lingua franca that executives speak, no matter their cultural background, no matter their organizational size. Numbers matter. So from that perspective, maybe just to share as a baseline, what we do at Aon is we collect about 50 million records on compensation of people around the world, many different companies, and we help conduct about 30 million assessments annually. As I'm sure everybody can appreciate, that gives us a tremendous set of data that we can analyze, specifically when it comes to such important issues that were raised already, such as, well, pay equity and disparity, how we approach bringing people into the organization, and how we maintain and motivate them throughout. So let me maybe pivot a little bit and speak to some of this data that perhaps would be of interest to both the fellow panelists as well as to our audience. First, there is real value, empirical value in D&I initiatives. Studies found that that companies with more than 30% of women were more likely to outperform companies with fewer women executives, or not at all. That hopefully is not a surprise, and I'm glad to see the diversity in both the panel as well as the awardees. But that is a simple fact of matter, and just shows to how data is catching up to what we probably knew all along. Uniformity compared to diversity really breeds fantastic outcomes. Likewise, and this is a little bit data, this is pre-COVID 2019, top quartile companies in terms of ethnic and cultural diversity outperform those in the bottom quartile by 36% in profitability. We're not talking about single digits, we're talking significant performance improvement to those who are more diverse. Now, why? I think we can all kind of internalize and think through the ramifications of what it's like to have people who have a different perspective. Renee, I love the term cognitive diversity because I think that is particularly applicable in our part of the world where we have such great diversity of culture, language, religion, gender background coming together, yet we all come from slightly different points of view. And that is the strength of where you as an organization mirror your customers. That I think is one of the more important kind of fundamental, if you will, executive speak conversations. But besides, and I think forgetting empirical, or rather putting it on one side, the most important thing, it is the right thing to do, just simply put. And I love the reference, Sunam, you mentioned about inclusivity in the keynote speech of being invited to dance. Who does not like dancing, right? Life is too short not to do the right thing, right? Life is too short not to make sure that we all contribute and we enjoy and take advantage of all that life has to offer. So maybe in closing, let me go through a little bit of what we hear from our clients, pivoting back to that conversation on how to use data-driven approaches to developing D&I programs. I'd say there are 5 key steps. First and foremost is to look at data, right? That's probably not a surprise, but combine both internal and external data. you have to audit your organization's programs and policies. Number two is to supplement that, right? Looking at external and internal data is one thing. Talking, big surprise, talking to your people, understanding what is important and looking beyond, for those familiar with analogy, beyond the top of the iceberg, beneath the waterline is so essential to get to the fact, to the root of the matter. Doing that through interviews, engagement surveys. Number three is to identify, of course, the right diversity metrics. What gets measured gets done. That's the fact, and do so throughout the employee lifecycle. Number four is to establish a go-forward strategy, right? That should be done and driven from an enterprise, and no matter how big your enterprise is, but from a top-down level. And number five is, of course, set up a monitoring system. So these establishment of right KPIs and periodically adjusting them as the situation changes is what, when we speak with our clients, have been found as some of the core steps required. And then, of course, certain projects such as pay gap calculations, such as making sure that there's appropriate dashboards, and then, of course, pivoting to the big topic, which is ESG. And as we look at the broadness of all ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance, D&I is such a cornerstone to the new way that we're looking at the world. I would say that perhaps we don't need to wait until 2025. Much has been written about the Great Resignation. We are a lot closer to the point where employees should be quite cognizant of all that's available to them. And given the war for talent that is very, very active, absolutely, why should they join a company that doesn't support that? So that I'll pass it on to the next person.